One, two, three. Harold and Brad, Windy City Filmmakers. Harold and Brad, Windy City Filmmakers. Harold and Brad. Da, 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 da. Three, two, one. What's going on, y'all? Brad Stevens here for another edition of the Harold and Brad Windy City Filmmakers podcast. HT, what's going on, brother?
What's up? And you can call me A.
We have a very special guest in the house, the super talented actor, director, Matt Miller. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, how are you guys? Good to be here.
Pretty good, pretty good. So the first question we always ask people is, what's your connection to Chicago? And what kind of art do you create?
My connection to Chicago. I first came to Chicago when I was a junior in high school as part of a history class. And we came to see, we came to see Northwestern and walk around that campus. And we also went to, some of the usual haunts in Chicago, Second City, and we went to dinner at the Berghoff. And it was just kind of we took the train into the city, which was also kind of magical. And it was just a really special first visit, as I think a lot of people have when they come to the city for the first time. And then, every time in college that I came down with friends, usually to see comedy, they were just these magic nights. And, I moved back to Ohio after college, but in the back of my head, I was always thinking, I'd love to land in Chicago for a little while.
Nice, yeah.
And cut to 20 years later, it's home, and it's been a wonderful time here.
Okay, great. And what kind of art do you create?
Well, these days, I mean, this may be up to interpretation, but these days I make commercials primarily. I'm directing commercials quite a lot, and that's been an education because there is quite a bit of art involved in telling a story that's coherent in 30 seconds or less. Really, telling a story in about 24 seconds is usually what you have. So I've actually found that has made me a better teller of stories in other mediums. So it's made me a better theater director. It's made me a better, director of films and TV, and web stuff. Just because you're way more responsible for the story thread in such a short amount of time, like you have in a commercial. So that was kind of an unexpected, skill to develop, but these days I'm doing a lot of commercial work, and I've enjoyed finding the more artistic and creative aspects of that. It's commercials. It's not the same as making true films and plays, but there is artistic merit to it, and that's been enjoyable for me to find.
So, and I want to talk about that a little bit because I look at, we look at commercials. And so I'm looking at beginning, middle, and end on some commercials in that short period of time. And there's a wow moment, you'll laugh or you'll feel something. I felt something watching commercials. And so that truly is a skill. Does it come from the writing per se, or is it you also as a director getting in there and it's hard to switch up dialogue in commercials and those types of things, but you have to get in there as a director and make that moment to where people can feel. And do you work for that, towards that?
Oh, for sure. And the challenge, I mean, it starts with the writing, of course. It always starts with the writing. And if the writing isn't there, it's going to be very hard to make that moment that you just described happen, where you feel something, you're connected to that person or that moment. In such a brief amount of time with it. I have found that, the best things I've done have been truly collaborative, in that the ad agency that creates the script and the concept, the clients, my crew, the actors that I've hired, everybody's pretty collaborative and pretty positive about the experience. I think it's easy to get cynical about commercials, and it's easy to get cynical about the idea of creating a story in order to move some units. But you can find some great, some incredibly skilled collaborators in the commercial sector, and I've learned a ton from working with production designers and ad writers who have been doing this for years and have really honed their craft so that they know exactly, how much dialogue is going to get them into that sweet spot of 24 seconds or so if it's a 30-second spot, with enough time at the end for voiceover and a tag. And hopefully what I'm bringing to it is assembling the right team. I'm bringing the right people to the party to make this thing work. Hopefully I'm also bringing some extra value in asking them to think about some things they hadn't considered about their commercial or their story before I got involved. And hopefully it's, in true improviser fashion, a yes and situation where there's some good energy flowing back and forth, and you're able to, elevate the story, but, stay true to the brand promises and stay true to the reason for them making that commercial, which is hopefully to sell a specific product or advertise a sale or a service. And I love that challenge. And I think it's a really, it is a really creative endeavor. I'm using all of the same skill sets that I use when I'm directing a play or, something else, something theatrical.
You just shot a commercial recently, right?
Yeah, I shot one that's airing right now. I shot a fall campaign for Lowe's. One is a family kind of getting ready for Halloween, and there's a big inflatable Frankenstein, and that's airing right now. Oh, funny story about that too. Yeah. So, we're on set, we're running out of time, and I've got to get this shot with the kids and the dad where this inflatable Frankenstein is, being brought to life on the front yard, and we're racing the clock, and the kids are, they're 5 and 6 and they're squirrely, and it's the end of the day and they're ready to go home. But I didn't want them to see that inflatable Frankenstein before we did it. And so the dad turns it on and it blows up and it's huge. And the little kid, I don't know if he was scared or what, but he gets up and the first thing he does is he punches it in the balls. and then he runs away. And everybody's dying. But yeah, that's not a take you can use.
Right. So what was that experience like, shooting the commercial in the midst of COVID-19? Like, what was the procedure like?
Yeah. It was a good experience. I am fortunate to work with an excellent producer in PJ Fishwick, who is the head of production at Capgun, which is the production company that reps me in Chicago and nationally. But PJ is a brilliant producer, and there have been a lot of meetings with the unions about protocols and ways that we can keep people safe on set. They involve everything from a COVID officer on set checking temperatures and checking people in as they arrive to more socially distanced pods, so you don't have everybody kind of on set at the same time. Right. You're working with specific pods, and if an art department team needs to come in, that means the actors and the first team need to leave, and so you're really trying to keep people distance as much as possible. The one sticky widget right now is still keeping actors safe.
Right.
When you start rolling, that is the challenge right now, is how do you keep actors safe? And really the answer right now is testing. They need to be tested, and they need to be quarantined before they come to set. And that's a hard thing production-wise to kind of account for with a limited pre-production schedule. So that's the main way right now that I think actors are being kept safe. Or I did 2 projects this summer where we made the decision to cast people that were already quarantined together. So we were casting families that were already quarantined together, and that way we didn't have to worry too much about exposure because they were already quarantined together. So there have been some workarounds, but I do think moving forward, COVID is going to be with us for a long time. Yeah. And there are very good protocols in place to keep the crews safe. I think outside of testing, that really is the standard right now in terms of how to keep actors safe, because once you start rolling and the masks come down, that's a whole different ballgame for actors.
And let me agree, because sometimes it's kind of scary, because I've been out there since COVID, on a few projects, and it's kind of scary to watch some of these people being inconsistent with masks. Yeah. Yeah. And so, I'm always attempting to stay back because, home life, I'd be quarantined in the basement. Right. Yeah. If I got around anybody. So I'm like always worried about bringing it home. Yeah.
There's a time where we truly have to embrace the safety first in mandate. And, there are certainly, I think, production companies that have done above and beyond work in terms of, keeping their people safe. And then there'll always be those that do kind of the bare minimum. And, I'm happy to say I've been working with folks that have really taken it seriously and have really, done everything possible to keep people safe. It's a challenging time, but these kind of restrictions also foster creativity in a weird way. Right. And I've seen that happen too. Like I did a whole callback session over Zoom. And you know what? It wasn't horrible.
Okay, right.
It wasn't horrible. Right. And for actors especially, I feel like in some cases, that's really nice, where you don't have to leave your house to have the callback. You don't have to invest in 3 hours of your day going down and finding parking and that whole, rigmarole. And I could still get what I needed to get out of that encounter. And I think actors were able to connect with me enough so that they could, get a sense for what I was, trying to direct them to do. And, I could see that happening again, regardless of, the presence of COVID. I could see that becoming a little bit more of an industry standard, just because it is convenient.
Absolutely. You just talked about the directing. So you directed theater a lot. How much theater directing have you done, and how has that translated or helped you into television and film?
Yeah, I started directing plays. I think the first short play I directed in Chicago was in 2000. I moved to Chicago in '99, and I interned at the Goodman Theater in their casting department. And the casting director at the time, Tara Alonzo, really encouraged me to try my hand at directing. And so I did Collaboraction's Sketchbook Festival. Collaboration is a lovely theater company, still around, still kicking. Nice. And they ran an awesome short play festival for many years. And I participated in the first 2, I think. And, that first season, or that first festival rather, I just kind of hit lightning. I had the right people and the right cast and the right script, and we won Best Actress and we won Best Director for myself, and it was a big light bulb moment for me of like, oh, this is all the things I enjoy.
Nice.
I love telling stories, and I love that feeling of assembling the team to tell a story in a way that, that's specific and fun. After that, began to shift my focus away from acting to casting and directing. And so over the next, 15 years or so, I directed, I'd say on average about a play a year is some years were more than that and some were less. But as a director, it's a little bit of a slow burn, getting a reputation and getting the opportunity in creating those opportunities for yourself to, make mistakes and grow from them. It's a challenging, job. And that's partly what I love about Chicago too, is like, it's a great training ground for directors. Right. You can make shows here, and if they're good, people come, and people, lots of people come. And if they're bad, they just kind of go. But I mean, that's an important aspect though too. Like they don't ruin your career,
right?
Like they do in LA or New York necessarily.
Yeah.
You don't, in New York especially, just the amount of money involved to put up a modest production now is hugely prohibitive for young artists. So.
Right.
So that's one of the wonderful things about Chicago, is that a lot of bad art gets made.
Right.
That's a sign of a healthy scene, I think, is that there's a lot of stuff happening, and it gives artists the chance to experiment and to learn, and and also there's a lot of really great art that gets made. And I think that's the hallmark of a healthy scene, and that's partly why I love Chicago, is that you can have a few $100s and a good idea and put on a show. And if it's good, people will come.
Oh la la. Yes.